I'm just so glad that we're all here today to recognize Jewish American Heritage Month. As you all know, last Tuesday we recognized Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it was a solemn day where here at the council, we joined together to remember and honor the 6 million Jews who were murdered during the Holocaust and those who survived. And today, we want to come together because it's important that we celebrate Jewish American heritage as well as have those solemn moments, because the contributions of our Jewish community is so great here in Montgomery County. Here in Montgomery County, we have this the largest Jewish population in the state, and we are very proud of that. And we want to celebrate these moments because our Jewish community, contributes so much through education, our nonprofits, through social justice activity, and it is through the Jewish values of repairing and charity that we really need right now in our community and throughout the world. And so today we want to lift up our Jewish American community and celebrate. And I'm just so glad we are joined by so many people here in our community who do such great work. And I'm going to turn it over now to Councilmember Friedson, Glass, and Katz to say a few remarks, and then we have some speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, President Stewart. It is an honor to be here to celebrate Jewish American heritage this month. Last week, as noted, we commemorated Yom HaShoah. We spoke about the darkest chapter of the Jewish experience. And it's important as we acknowledge and commemorate and ensure that we instill that as part of our collective memory, that we also uplift the brightest moments of the Jewish experience. And we talk about not just a story of surviving some of the worst atrocities that we have seen in human history, but of thriving in our country, in our county, and in our community. We like to talk a lot about some of the famous stories, Gustav Braun and Old Bay seasoning, for those keeping score. Old Bay seasoning is certified kosher. The shellfish it goes on, not so much. We can talk about the successes of a community that has grown from just about 200 families after World War II to over 100,000 Jewish residents in Montgomery County, comprising 10% of our population. And we could talk about the business and the charity and some of the other successes that we have seen in academia and in law. But I think it's most important to talk about how our Jewish community in Montgomery County has been a core part of the social safety net of living out Montgomery County values and living out Jewish values each and every day. The Jewish Social Service Agency, the Jewish Council for the Aging, the Jewish Community Center, the Jewish Coalition Against Domestic Abuse, Main Street Connect, the now Macomb, which used to be the Jewish Foundation from Group Homes. There is not a single area of our community and our county in the nonprofit social service sector that the Jewish community hasn't been a leading part of over the last 70 years in Montgomery County. And that is a great source of pride for me as a Jewish Montgomery County lifelong resident, and it should be a great source of pride for all of us. So today, we lift up and we talk about the light of the Jewish community, a time of growing anti-Semitism. The best way to fight it and combat it is to ensure that we are uplifting the greatest contributions and the successes of the Jewish community here in Montgomery County and throughout our country.
I just want to thank everybody who is joining us today for Jewish American Heritage Month, because not only are we standing here in solidarity, but we will continue standing with every member of our community, because those are our Jewish values. Just as we stood up during the civil rights struggle, just as we have stood up over other struggles and fights for equality that have focused on other individuals, of other religions, of other countries, We will continue standing up here in Montgomery County to make sure we remain a safe and welcoming place for everybody, and we will continue fighting for equal rights and civil rights for every resident, because as we celebrate Jewish American Heritage Month, we will continue fighting for everybody. So thank you.
Well, good morning. I mentioned upstairs that I really should have learned years ago to not follow my colleagues because they've said it all, though I'm going to say a little bit more. Andrew mentioned Gustav Brunn from Old Bay. I actually knew him. And his 96-year-old son, 96-year-old son, is still living, Ralph. He was friendly with my in-laws. But, and it was also noted, it's hard to believe that in the 20s, 1920, my grandparents came to Gaithersburg in 1918, but in 1920, that era, there were so few Jewish people living here because there was covenants on land that you said you couldn't sell to them. Now, ultimately, obviously, there was a lot of land that was bought and the population changed, but that's really my family's lifetime. In my lifetime, and I mentioned this upstairs as well, it's hard to believe, schools integrated in Montgomery County in 1956 in the Up County when I was in first grade. It's hard to believe where we were, really in a horrible situation, but where we were and where we are today. We have a lot of ways, we have a lot more ways to go forward, but we have come a long way in that 100 years. We just need to do so much more. And Andrew mentioned this as well. It's about 105 Jewish people that now live in Montgomery County. And of course, the perseverance, hope, and faith of the Jewish community has reminded us of the tragedies of with the Jewish people live on. But the Jewish community needs all communities, just like every other community. I always say a community is a family. The Jewish community needs all communities to stand together to make certain that our neighbors and our families and our friends remain strong. Because when we were talking about this Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust, when you started listening to people who lived through that, you realize we're not that far from where we were then to where we are now. We need to be very, very careful. We need to celebrate, but we need to remember. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to my colleagues for those words. And we have many members of the Jewish American community with us today. And we want to be joined now by Rabbi Glazer, who's going to share a few words with us. Rabbi?
Thank you. I'm very honored and delighted to be here today on the occasion of the Council recognizing Jewish American Heritage Month, and to have a chance to be here with so many of my colleagues and the Jewish community's partners in this community. As a representative of Or Kodesh congregation, the oldest Jewish institution in Montgomery County, I am also delighted to share there is no way I could list all the Jewish organizations, institutions, and synagogues that now exist in this amazing and diverse community of Montgomery County. Rav Moshe Feinstein once wrote in 1984, on reaching the shores of the United States, Jews found a safe haven. The rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights have allowed us the freedom to practice our religion without interference and to live in this republic in safety. A fundamental principle of Judaism is Hakarat HaTov, recognizing benefits afforded us and giving expression to our appreciation. And we do appreciate our community in Montgomery County, Maryland, and in the United States of America. Many years ago, I was at the council proclamation celebrating the faith communities and the interfaith work in Montgomery County, Maryland. And on the way out, a television reporter, put a microphone on my face and say, "Talk to me about anti-Semitism." And I said, "We certainly need to talk about anti-Semitism, but today, I would love to talk about the way the faith communities are coming together to work together to create an amazing community here in Montgomery County." And he said, he looked at me, he paused again, and he said, "If you want to get quoted, talk about anti-Semitism. And he walked away. Oy. Right. We thrive in Montgomery County because we work together. And we do need to talk about anti-Semitism, and we need to work together to combat anti-Semitism, and we do that together. This incredible diverse community here in Montgomery County, by coming together and working together, we all support one another. This is not something that we can do on our own, none of us. Right. Ibu Patel in Sacred Ground writes, "Where diversity is a fact, pluralism is an achievement. It means deliberate and positive engagement of diversity. It means building strong bonds between people from different backgrounds." And that is the gift we are given here in Montgomery County as the Jewish community comes together with other communities so that we can create the strongest, proudest, most significant force in America, which is a group of individuals who work together to build our community. George Washington wrote in a letter to the Hebrew congregation in Newport, Rhode Island in 1790, "It is now no more that intoleration is spoken of as if it was by the indulgence of one class of people that another enjoyed the exercise of their inherent natural rights. For happily, the government of the United States, which gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they live under its protection and should demean themselves as good citizens in giving it on all occasions their effectual support." We understand that that's an aspirational comment, right? We have not achieved a country that gives to bigotry no sanction and to persecution no assistance. But it is an aspiration, and it is an aspiration for all of us. And continuing in that letter, "May the Father of all mercies scatter light and not darkness in our paths, and make us all in our several vocations useful here, and in its own due time and way everlastingly happy."
Thank you, Rabbi Glazer. You know, as we were thinking about today, the proclamation for Jewish American Heritage Month, as the Rabbi said, Or Kodesh is one of our oldest Jewish communities here in Montgomery County. So we need to look at the history, but we also need to look at the present and the future. And so it's so important that we have Samuel here, who is a senior at Kennedy High School, and he is here to share some words. He is an ambassador for JCRC of Greater Washington's student-to-student program, and he's going to provide some remarks for us this morning.
Hi, my name is Samuel Pikowski Christensen. I'm a senior at John F. Kennedy High School. And last year and this year, I've been a group leader and steering committee member of the JCRC, which is the Jewish Community Relations Council, student-to-student peer education program. So what we do is we go into different schools and different communities within Montgomery County and also in DC and Virginia to basically provide presentations about what it's like to be a Jewish teen in Montgomery County. So we're not going to necessarily talk about politics or talk about different ideological divides, but rather just share our experiences in our day-to-day lives about what it's like to be a Jewish teen. For me personally, I've done a lot of work with the Board of Education in Montgomery County, as well as different administrative bodies to work to provide more Jewish education, not education about Jewish laws and practices, but rather education about Jewish successes throughout history, like so many people before me have said today. A lot of things that we see in curricula in education really revolve around the Holocaust. And like we said before, it is so incredibly important to commemorate this and recognize it, but it's also so incredibly important to talk about all of our successes so that we don't get sort of stuck in the muck of being victims. So much of what we do at the JCRC and what we do within our education system is to teach people about, number one, the unknown, which is so important, and number two, about the successes of different groups of people throughout the entirety of history. And I am very proud to say that me and one of my very good friends, Eliza Bevington, worked pretty closely with some of the social studies curricula personnel within Montgomery County to sort of rebuild the social studies curricula within elementary school, middle school, and high school to include more Jewish education, not just about the Holocaust. Because from my experience and from the experience of many of my peers, people tend to be afraid of what they don't know. So the best way to uplift the Jewish community and really talk about our successes as a cohesive group of people is to teach people what they don't know and allow them to understand that we are a wonderful, amazing community with so many different assets that make us who we are today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for those words and for all you're doing, and to JCRC for your work. I also want to recognize that we have representatives here from Senator Van Hollen's office, Congressman Raskin's office, and thank them for all their work they're doing for our community and for our country. We also have the Mayor of Kensington here, Tracy Furman, and Laura Stewart on Board of Education. And just want to thank everyone who came out today to really celebrate Jewish American Heritage Month. And with that, we will now read the proclamation. All right. All right, I will start. Whereas Jewish American Heritage Month originated in 1980 when Congress passed a resolution which authorized the President of the United States to issue a proclamation designated April 21st to 28th, 1980 as Jewish Heritage Week, and
whereas since 2007, every U.S. president has issued proclamations for Jewish American Heritage Month, encouraging all Americans to learn about Jewish heritage and the contributions of Jewish Americans to the United States, and
whereas the American Jewish community dates back to 1654, when a group of 23 Jews fleeing persecution at the hands of Portuguese Inquisition in Brazil found refuge in New Amsterdam, now part of New York City. Today, the American Jewish community has grown to approximately 7.6 million people, which represents more than 2% of the total U.S. population. And
whereas the story of America was written in part by Jewish Americans who, through their words and actions, embraced the opportunity and responsibility of citizenship and civic engagement. Jewish Americans continue to guide our country's progress as scientists and teachers, doctors and lawyers, public servants, and nonprofit leaders, and
whereas over the past 370 years, the Jewish Americans have contributed to their communities and to this nation as loyal and patriotic citizens. The American Jewish community has proudly served in uniform, in elected office, and in our nation's highest courts. And
whereas Jewish Americans have made enormous contributions to America's artistic, cultural, economic, philanthropic, intellectual, and scientific achievements, and have marched, petitioned, boarded buses to demand civil rights and political rights for all, from women's rights to voting rights and workers' rights. American Jews have always pushed our nation and our community to live up to its promise to uphold freedom and justice for all. And
whereas Montgomery County is home to the largest Jewish population in the state, with 45% of Maryland's Jewish residents living in our community. According to the Berman Jewish Data Bank, Montgomery County's Jewish residents make up 10% of our population, with 105,400 residents. Additionally, the Washington metropolitan area is home to the third largest Jewish population in the United States. And
whereas for generations, the story of the Jewish people have been recognized as one of resilience, faith, and hope in the face of adversity, prejudice, and persecution, and
whereas now American Jews are feeling vulnerable amidst a rise in anti-Semitism.
The American Jewish Committee's State of Anti-Semitism in America 2024 report revealed that 91% of American Jews find that anti-Semitism in the United States has increased in the last 5 years, with 1/3 saying they have been the personal target of anti-Semitism either in person or virtually at least once over the last year. Sadly, we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism in Montgomery County as well. And
whereas hate has no home in our community, and we stand in solidarity with our Jewish residents to combat anti-Semitism, discrimination, and acts of violence, and recommit ourselves to doing everything we can to help eliminate all types of discrimination and prejudices. And
whereas in Montgomery County, our diversity is our strength, and Jewish American Heritage Month is a time when the culture and history of Jewish Americans is celebrated and their sacrifices and contributions to our nation, state, and county are honored and uplifted. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland proclaims May 2025 as Jewish American Heritage Month, presented on the 6th day of May in the year 2025. Thank you.